All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is David King Etienam, and I am a relationship coach. And it delights me to be with us this evening to continue the aspect of relationship and temperament that we started last month. And it's going to be a 4-part series. So please pay attention and follow me closely. And so we're going to go on right ahead. We've been dealing on the subject. I'll call it a series, yes, a 4-part series. But we've been dealing on the subject, temperaments or relationship and temperaments. Relationship and temperaments. So we are talking about, relationship. We are in relationship with different people. And I always tell us that, the relationship we have with anybody requires certain skills to navigate such a relationship. Be it your boss in the office, your colleague at work, be it your schoolmate, be it your husband, your wife, or someone you are just simply dating. There are skills that we need to help us navigate these relationships. And the sad part of it is when those skills are not in place, we are going to mess up a lot of things. We are going to find ourselves getting into a relationship that is jumbled. And so, life is all about relationships. From the moment you got into this world, none of us came into this world by ourselves. We were given birth to by our parents. So the moment we stepped into this world, relationship began. First with our parents, then of course our siblings, and other relations, just in case you are just the only sibling that or the only child that your parents have. Then we have extended family, cousins, nephews, nieces, aunties, uncles, and all of that. And of course, you go beyond that by the time you begin to get into society and blend with other children from nursery school to primary school to secondary school, then you get into the office. Life is all about relationships. There's this adage that I love so much. It says that a tree cannot make a forest. Another one says, no man is an island. And these are very key thoughts that you and I should be able to embrace when we look at the subject of relationship and how key it is. Is it relating to business? You don't do business on your own. You do business with other people. Someone once said that the next money that you are about to make is in someone's hands today. It will take relationship. It will take you meeting someone for there to be an exchange. An exchange of either goods or services. There has to be an exchange of some sort between you and some other person that you would get to meet tomorrow. That's the way life works. And so if you think by any chance, that you can make it in this world, in life, alone, you are mistaken. You are mistaken. Take this very, very seriously. Consider it to be one of the most vital and important issues and subjects that you would want to embrace and abide by. relationships. Relationships. And then when we started last month to look at the subject of relationships with temperaments, I said something, and this is why we are looking at temperaments. I said that temperaments is the foundation of every relationship. Excuse me. The foundation of every relationships begins with temperaments. The foundation of every relationship begins with temperaments. So, what is a temperament? A temperament is simply your personality. Those natural traits that you were born with, just like our fingerprints. And I would tell us that no two human beings have the same fingerprints. I mean, no two human beings that has been born in the past, that is alive now, or will be born in the future, that will ever have your exact fingerprints. As in your 5 fingers. In other words, there's no fingerprint that will match this. There's no fingerprint that will match this. There's no fingerprint that will match this. There's no fingerprint that will match this or this. Past, present, or future. That is how unique you are. And if you understand that this uniqueness that you have does not just begin and end with fingerprints, there are other things, other attributes, characteristics bordering your personality, your person as an individual. That thing that establishes your difference. That even if you have a twin, I like using the analogy of a twin to express how different you and I are. So twins actually come from the same cell. That's what we are taught in biology, and that's what it is. Twins. So when there's fertilization in the fallopian tube of a woman, twins happen when there's a split in that cell. And so they literally share everything from their DNA they literally share everything. Whether twins, whether triplets, and all of that, they all come from the same cell. Now, in as much as they come from the same cell, it will amaze you that when twins are born, they are born different, with their individuality intact. In other words, not even twins are the same. How much more those of us who are not twins? How much more you and the person you have a relationship with, whether it's your boss, whether it's your husband or wife, or the person you are dating, whether it's your colleague at work. Difference. And yesterday when we were talking about, last month when we were talking about temperament, where we talked about the sanguine, I mentioned that we have two major classes of temperaments. We have the introverts, then we have the extroverts. So who are the introverts? The introverts are those of us who enjoy our space. We enjoy our space. We get strength from within ourselves. We like that quietness. Then who are the extroverts? The opposite. The extroverts are those outgoing folks who love or gain strength from out of themselves. They gain strength from others. They love to make friends. They love to relate. Anything that will connect them with other people is where they gain strength, is where they thrive. While the introverts, they love to get strength and, everything that gives them energy and boost from within themselves. They are the type that people will see and say, this guy is shy, or this lady is shy. They are the type that, they get into people's midst and they don't talk, they don't communicate. Quiet. While the other, they are out there. So, we talked about the sanguine last time in our first session in this series. Today, we want to be talking about the choleric. Mr. Fred, last time, Mr. Fred said that he's very sure that our next class is going to be the choleric. And he knows that he's a choleric. So here we are today on the choleric. On the choleric. The choleric. Choleric is spelled C-H-O-L-E-R-I-C. C-H-O-L-E-R-I-C. So let me start by saying this. Last time we talked about the sanguine, and we were able to identify that the sanguine is an extrovert, but the sanguine is a fun person. He thrives on excitement, fun, excitement, fun, excitement. Take note of that. Fun, excitement. Anything that gives the sanguine pleasure, count them in. And I said the sanguine, when the sanguine enters a room, everybody knows that a sanguine has come. They are naturally loud. You can hear them from the gate. They are greeting everybody, both those they know and those they don't know. The sanguine gets involved in everybody. With a sanguine, there's no dull moment. They know how to liven a room and make it come alive. The sanguine. Then we looked at, of course, all the positives and negatives. And I said, of course, some of the positive of the sanguine is if you need people to volunteer because of the what will I call it now? The adventurous spirit of the sanguine loves to explore. So if you have a project now, especially if that project will require traveling, but even if it doesn't require traveling, you just have a project in the office and you're like, I need volunteers. Most likely the people that will volunteer will be sanguines. They are already bored of the office, especially if the office is the type that keeps your butt in the chair from morning till night. The sanguine wants to leave that environment. He just wants something new. The sanguine. It's not about the work now, because again, we saw some of the disadvantages of a sanguine. One of the disadvantages of a sanguine is that a sanguine is, pardon me to you if I use this word, it's not to spite anyone who is a sanguine, but it's just to let you know the reality of who a sanguine is. Because we said also that no temperament is good, no temperament is bad. Every temperament has its strength and also has its weakness. So the purpose of this knowledge is for you to understand that, okay, this is who I am. And when you realize that this is who you are, it puts you in a place where you can now be in control of what you do or what you do not do. I remember the last time we mentioned a book, Mr. Fred mentioned a book which I recommended for us to get. And the title of that book is Why We Act the Way We Do, written by Tim LaHaye. Please go after that book, look for it and get it. I think I have, I don't know, I'll check if I have a copy, a soft copy, that I can send to a few of us. Otherwise, go look for the book and get it. It will do you a world of good. Why we act the way we do. So there are certain things that you find yourselves doing or other people doing. One of the major reasons why we act the way we do is because of our temperament. And I said, we did not choose our temperaments. None of us did. We were born that way. And if I say it the same way, the way we say it back here in Nigeria, no be me born myself. No be me born myself. I mean, you didn't give birth to yourself. You didn't give birth to yourself. So it's not something you could have made a choice. Okay, I don't like the sanguine. I want to be a choleric. Or I don't like the choleric. I want to be a sanguine. No, it's not something you make by choice. But now, what is important for you to know is that all of these different temperaments, when you know them and understand them, it gives you the ability to know where your strength lies and where your weakness also lies. That way, you can step into another gear where you can now become in control. Like a man I love so much, Reverend Sam Oye, my pastor, he always would say, feed your strengths, starve your weaknesses. So that's what to do with strengths and weaknesses. And like I would always tell people, your strengths are why people love you or why people would always want to get closer to you. Your weaknesses are why people will despise you or want to naturally get away from you. We're talking about relationships. You can't blame people for how they see you. You are not in their eyes. And last time I said something about perspective. And I explained that if I write 6 on a piece of paper, while I'm seeing 6, you will not be seeing 6. You will be seeing 9 because you are on the other side of that plane. You're going to see 9, not 6. And I cannot be offended or upset with you for seeing 9. I can't tell you, can't you see? This is 6. I can't be upset with you. Because you have seen 9 by virtue of your perspective. So I usually would tell people, I say, if you want people to see the same way you see, bring them to your side. That's where the hard work is in relationships. A lot of us are not able to do that, so we give up. We break up. Now, it's both ways, of course. You are not able to bring the other person to your side. The other person also, who has work to do like you do, is not able to bring you to their side, to see like you see. So there's a disagreement, there's a misunderstanding. And where the two of you are unable to do anything about that misunderstanding, such a relationship will never work. That's the importance of this study on temperament. We are saying, who are you? And when I say who are you, I'm not asking what your name is or your profession. I'm asking about the very fabric of what makes you tick. And temperaments is one of them. Who are you? It's important you know who you are. That way, also, when you know other people who they are, you can relate. You can understand why this person is this way, or why this person behaves this way, or talks this way. You can understand. So rather than being offended, you are now patiently working or dealing with them. Okay, so the choleric. I want to read through a few thoughts that I have here, and then, we will go on to, in fact, as I'm reading the thoughts that I have here, I'll be saying quite a lot about the choleric so that we can get to understand where we are. Okay, the choleric. The choleric is a natural extrovert. But by the way, let me say this. Remember I said that we have 4 basic temperaments. And within those 4 basic temperaments, we have blends, temperamental blends. So we have the sanguine, we have the choleric, and those 2 are extroverted. Then we have 2 introverted temperaments. We have the melancholy, and then we have the phlegmatic. And then I said also that those are primary temperaments. Then we have secondary temperaments. In other words, we are saying that if someone discovers that I am primarily a sanguine, the person could have a secondary temperament, maybe a choleric, the choleric side, maybe the phlegmatic side. So, using myself as an example, my primary temperament is the melancholy. Then I have a secondary temperament which is the choleric. So interestingly, I'm going to be talking about the choleric today, which happens to be my secondary temperament. Meaning that I have an aspect of the choleric in me. Now, I may not do that today, but in our next session, I'm going to give us a link to somewhere we can take a temperament test. So for those of us who have an idea based on the things that we've shared, but you are not too sure. You're not too sure. I, for one, at some point, I thought I had a secondary temperament of a phlegmatic. I thought so. But it happened that after a while, it dawned on me that there's nothing phlegmatic about me. It's a learned behavior that I learned over time. Left for me, I don't have any business with the phlegmatic temperament. So I'm going to send us that link, possibly in our next class, so that you can go do your temperament test to help you, point you in the direction that, okay, this, I think it is my temperament. It will help you. Because when you have an idea and you hone into your temperament, you begin to understand it, looking at you in retrospect. Not just looking at you based on the future or the present. In retrospect, you begin to discover or identify why you've been doing the things you've been doing the way you've been doing them. So now we're talking about the choleric, and we say the choleric is a natural extrovert. Natural extrovert. Now, the thing that makes the choleric to stand out separately from the sanguine is what I'm about to tell you. Pay close attention. So in as much as the choleric and the sanguine are both extroverts, but here is what demarcates the choleric from the sanguine. Okay. So the sanguine is an extrovert because of people and because of fun. fun, entertainment. This is why the sanguine is an extrovert. They want to meet people for the fun of it. They want to have fun. They want to enjoy themselves. So they feel that enjoyment can only happen with the other person. The choleric is an extrovert with intentionality. And that intentionality happens to be vision, purpose. Vision, purpose. Vision, purpose. Vision, purpose. So the sanguine gets into a relationship with you for fun. The choleric gets into a relationship with you with a reason. Take away that reason, the choleric has no business with you. Did you get what I just said? Let me rewind. The choleric has a relationship with people because of purpose, because of vision. Now, I said, take away that purpose, take away that vision, the choleric will not want anything to do with you. A choleric doesn't just get up and leave his house and say, I'm going visiting, without intentionality. If he's coming to visit you, there is something behind that visit. So, pardon me to say this. A lot of times, cholerics are seen as though they use people. Now, that's the truth. That's the truth, and that's how it always would seem. They would say, this guy is using me. And the truth about it is because the choleric sees you as a means to an end. The end is not you. The end is purpose. The end is destiny. The end is vision. So, permit me to jump beyond where I am right now in what I'm supposed to be talking about concerning the choleric. But let me just jump into this aspect of the choleric, which is the weakness. Which is the weakness. If a choleric wants to get there, there's this statement they usually would use to define a choleric. A choleric is that kind of a person who does not give a hoot, whose ox is God. A choleric can climb over people just because they have a destination in view. Cholerics are like trains that have lost their brakes. You don't want to stand in the way of a choleric. They will crush you. You don't want to stand in the way of a choleric. They will crush you because they are not seeing you. They are seeing the end. They are seeing the vision. They are seeing the purpose. They are purpose-driven. And the only reason a choleric will have a relationship with you is if you will benefit or drive or make that vision or purpose to thrive. Otherwise, the choleric does not need you. I usually would tell people in marriage and relationship classes that I handle for premarital folks who are about to get married. And I usually would use this to tease the choleric or someone who is in a relationship with a choleric. And I would say, in fact, even this relationship that the two of you are in right now, that is leading towards marriage, in most cases, for the choleric, it was a goal that he set when he entered a particular year. This year, I'm going to get married. In other words, for the choleric, this may sound very funny. For the choleric, the actualizing marriage is more important than the person that he or she is getting married to, in some cases. You are getting married because you said, this year I want to get married, and you put it as one of your goals, as one of your targets, as one of your checklists that you want to tick at the end of the year. In many cases, the choleric did not get into that relationship because they felt something. No. In some cases, they didn't feel anything. But I said, I will get married this year. So who is the person? Or in fact, anybody who shows up to say, will you marry me? I want to get married. So they just analyze, okay, this about this person, and all of that. And the purpose for their saying yes may not be because of other factors other than the fact that they said they want to get married this year. I'm talking about some. I'm not saying all cholerics behave that way. But I'm saying that they are more driven by purpose, by goals, by targets than any other thing else. The choleric. Okay, let's proceed. Cholerics are extremely strong-willed. I'm trying to let us see the characteristics of the choleric. Strong-willed, strong-willed. When a choleric says, I want to do this, a lot of times, even the whole world will not be able to change his mind or her mind. Cholerics are very strong-willed by nature. It will take the whole clan to want to try to turn them back from that thing that they've made up their minds to do. It may never get to work. The choleric. When they have made up their minds, they rarely ever, if ever, change. Even if they are wrong. Very important. When a choleric has made up his mind or her mind, even when they are wrong, it's hard for them to change direction because of how strong-willed they are. Now, being strong-willed could be a strength. It could be a weakness. So, understand, see, when it becomes a weakness, you will know. When it becomes a strength, you will know. So I'm not going to begin to demarcate strength, weakness. Even though there are some things that you may see as strengths on one side and weakness on the other. There are some that are both strength and weakness depending on how they are used or how they flow from the person. So like I said, being strong-willed could be a very good trait. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because, doggedness is one trait. For people who are visionaries, you need to be dogged if you will ever arrive at your destination, if you will ever achieve the result that you need to. You need to be dogged. You need to put your head into something and nothing would bring you out of it. But in some cases, like I pointed out, even when they are wrong, because of their strong will, they could just keep going. In that particular scenario, or in some similar scenarios, that is where that becomes a weakness. Choleric will seldom listen to the advice of someone else. A choleric will seldom listen to the advice of someone else. Now, the reason is this. Cholerics are natural leaders. They are born leaders. When a choleric steps into a place, out of 10 people there and one choleric enters, before you know it, that choleric will be made to lead the others. It may not necessarily be based on merit. It may not necessarily be based on merit. So at times other people can't understand it. Okay, this guy just showed up, he just came. Why are you placing? There's something about the choleric. Even the look. Even the look. Just the look alone. So even when a choleric, take for instance myself. I said earlier that I have a secondary temperament of the choleric, while I'm primarily melancholy. Meaning that my primary temperament is the introverted side of me. I never want to be seen. When I get into a place, I lock up like in a cocoon. That's the me. That's the real me. I can stay in my home for the next 1 year and I will not be missing anything outside. That's me. That's me. But from when I was growing up, from nursery school, primary school, secondary school, university, I've always been a leader. Not one that were given the opportunity to conduct an election where I came out and said, oh, I want to be led. They will always fetch me. They will always fetch me. So even in the seminary where I went to, my secondary school days, I was the senior prefect. And then later on was made the general senior prefect. So from my SS2 to my SS3 throughout, I went to the university, I was made a class rep. I went to another university, I was made a class rep. I went to work in Benin, I was made in charge of a department. I was the manager. I came over to Abuja, the same thing. So even when we try to hide, somehow they fetch us. So like I said, even the look, I don't know how they identify cholerics, but you see, it's a trait. So it's something that naturally exudes from you. So I said here, cholerics will seldom listen to the advice of anyone else. And I said the reason is because cholerics are natural leaders. And for someone who is a natural leader, doesn't find it difficult leading themselves. So instead of going to ask someone, what do I do? Or expecting someone to point them in the direction, they take the initiative. They know how to do that. They know how to do that. They are not waiting for people to lead them, to push them, to guide them. It's their forte. They do it. So, most cholerics can never be lost in life. Now, maybe I should rephrase that. A lot of cholerics could be lost in life because they are pursuing the wrong thing, because they are going in the wrong direction. But if they were to be going in the right direction, they don't need anybody, they don't need any encouragement, they don't need anybody to push them, they know how to push themselves. So let me explain the other one that I'm talking about. Because of the nature of a choleric, who is always a visioner, goals, targets, it's possible for the choleric to make a particular goal that he is not or she is not supposed to take as a goal, but because they've made it a goal and they are focused in that direction. Remember I said earlier that cholerics, when they make up their minds, even when they are wrong, it's hard for them to change their minds. So it connects with this too. So even when they are going in the wrong direction, in other words, it's not in their favor, but they are not aware. But because they've made up their mind that this is the way to go, they're just going to keep on going. So it's possible to find a choleric who can drive his or herself, but yet going in the wrong direction. Remember I said your strength could be your weakness. So the fact that a choleric is a natural visioner does not mean that every choleric will end up a success in life, because they could be going in the wrong direction. So if you realize that, oh, I'm a choleric, and it's possible for me to go in the wrong direction and keep on going. If you realize, then you can put your foot on the brakes and say, hold on there. Because you see, if you don't help yourself, nobody might. Tell yourself, hold on there. Let me be sure of where I'm going to. So like I said, cholerics seldom listen to the advice of anyone else. So can you tell yourself, if you're a choleric, that, come on, this is my nature, but I don't want to be headed in the wrong direction. So there's nothing wrong with taking counsel. There's nothing wrong with taking advice from other people. Can you tell yourself that? You see, when you begin to even go into the area or into the terrain of marriage, for instance, you begin to see a lot of this come to play, come to light. And in most cases, just imagine a scenario where the woman is the one who is the choleric. Just imagine. Where she's always vision-driven, purpose-driven, goals and target-driven. And maybe her husband may not be. Maybe the husband is an introvert. Maybe the husband is even a phlegmatic. And I don't know why I like combining choleric and phlegmatics, but I don't know. But imagine a scenario where, I usually would say that the phlegmatic is that person who, while the choleric has a 10 years plan, for instance, the phlegmatic does not even have a 1 week plan. They don't. What am I doing with a 1 week plan? Today is enough. Tomorrow, okay, tomorrow is fine. They're okay. They are the kind of people who the whole city could be going ablaze and they are sleeping. They are sleeping. They are the kind of people that could be laid back in such a way that, take for instance now, the insecurity level of Nigeria right now, and the dollar, so many things going wrong. For the choleric, they are already strategizing. Oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, in the next 6 months. The phlegmatic is saying, I have 10,000 naira in my account. It can help me for today. In fact, it can help me for this week. They are not thinking of next week that the 10,000 could run out. So imagine a situation where the woman is the choleric in a marriage situation and the man is a phlegmatic. They will fight every day. She will not be able to take it. She would end up seeing that man as though that man is lacks direction or doesn't know his left from his right. She wouldn't understand submission in the sense that she's driven So a lot of times, even before, she rarely asks the man. In fact, if she asks the man questions, a phlegmatic man, his answer might be anything you say. What should we do? She needs direction, and you say, what do you think? You throw it back at her because you don't want to stress yourself with direction, with vision, with all of that stuff. You throw it back at her, and she's irritated. Then at some point, she begins to ignore you. She begins to take steps by herself. She begins to take action by herself. Before you realize it, she has gone far, and you are trailing behind. And then the man in you awakens. The man in you awakens. You're like, okay, what's going on? You see, because whether choleric, whether melancholy, whatever it is, there's something about a man, there's something about a woman. So the man in you wakes up and you're like, okay, what's going on here? Then you begin to see her as disrespectful. You begin to see her as insulting. Whereas the only thing is, you lacked leadership qualities, and she led without you. I usually tell people, I say you can lead without being the leader. You can lead without being the leader. And if you look at our Nigerian situation and scenario right now, it is obvious that some people are leading. How do I put it now? Some people are leaders, yet other people are leading through them. Okay, so the choleric wants to have total control over themselves and anyone around them. The choleric is controlling. If I may use this other word, domineering. Yeah, whether male, whether female. So for females, for instance, when you see this sect, I call it sect, or maybe I should call it, let me not call it sect. Maybe I should call it, when you see this kind of women who call themselves boss ladies. I don't know where they got that title from, boss ladies. It's the choleric in them. The choleric in them. If they could realize that, this is what it is, and understand. Now it's looking like confrontation. You're having so many things here, women this, women that. It's as if there's a war between men and women. No. Absolutely no. There's not supposed to be a war. We just need to understand ourselves. The man should not feel threatened by a woman with choleric qualities. He should not. He should not. And then a woman who has choleric qualities should not feel intimidated by a man who is trying to... You see, it's about understanding. Understanding. But they want to have total control over themselves and anyone around them. Choleric are of the opinion and believe that they know what is best for those around them and what acceptable behavior according to them is. So if, for instance, we're in a meeting now and there's a choleric in that meeting and a question is asked, okay, what do we do? Now, everybody is entitled to their opinion and everybody has the right to tender their opinion as per what direction they should take. But for a choleric, he or she takes it personal. They feel that their decision or their own opinion is the best and is what everybody should take or imbibe. They don't do well with you turning down a proposal that they bring. They feel, this is it. How can you not how can you not take this route? This is just it. They have a severe problem with anger. Cholerics are angry. And their anger is, like I said, a choleric can actually climb on top of you in a bid to get to his or her destination. So the anger too is tailored in the direction of you, or rather of them seeing you as an opposition. So when the choleric views you as an opposition, that anger is not really at you, but because you are like in their path, in their way. So they now begin to direct that anger at you. Cholerics have a tendency to seldom express their emotions, such as love, tenderness, warmth, and compassion. Let me put it this way. Cholerics are dry. Yeah, that's the word, dry. Dry. A lot of times, cholerics lack the ability to show empathy. They lack the ability to show empathy. This is often offset with a secondary temperament. Meaning, if you have a temperament blend of another temperament, you could find yourself expressing emotion sometimes. Nevertheless, naturally, the choleric is almost dead to emotions. They are too goal-oriented, too target-driven, that all they think about, all that controls them are their goals and targets. Every other thing is... Remember, like I said earlier, I said, whereas the sanguine gets into relationships for fun, for entertainment, and all of that, the choleric gets into relationship because of the end. So like I said, a lot of times people see cholerics as though they are using me to get to their sweet spot. Which is true a lot of times. But you see, what is the essence and the importance of this knowledge? So that if you are a choleric, you have to intentionally tell yourself, okay, even though I need people, but this is not going to be it. I want to intentionally ensure that in as much as I am using people to achieve something, but they are also benefiting from the relationship. It's not just a one-sided thing. It takes intentionality for a choleric to do that. Otherwise, in clear essence, the choleric only sees the goal, only sees the vision, only sees the end. So for the choleric, the end justifies the means. Yeah. The end justifies the means. The choleric believes that no one else can carry out a task as well as they can. They are Mr. Perfect, like I said earlier. They have a tendency to overwork themselves. So when a choleric wakes up in the morning and he has a target, they don't want to rest until that target is met. So a lot of times they overwork themselves. So at times when you're in a relationship with someone who is a choleric, you are like telling the person, rest now. The person does not understand what you're saying. Rest? I've not achieved my result. I've not gotten to my destination. You are telling me rest? They rest after work. That is if the work ever finishes. Because as they are finishing one, they are setting another one. They have a tendency to overwork themselves and are prone to burnout because all the choleric sees are goals and targets. They are vision-driven and naturally have great leadership abilities. He exudes confidence. I said it earlier. I said there's a look that the choleric carries. So while the sanguine enters a place and announces his presence or her presence by their loud introduction or loud greeting or whatever, the choleric does not need to talk. They exude self-confidence. A choleric walks in and there's something about his presence or her presence that makes the room to realize that somebody has entered without talking. Unlike the sanguine, whose extroversion is geared towards fun, the choleric is mainly extroverted when it has to do with getting to meet and know people in a bid to enable him or her accomplish dreams, visions, and goals. The choleric is very productive and active. They are the kind of people who get things done. You have assignments in your office that you want done, give it to a choleric. Don't give it to a sanguine. A sanguine may be very excited to do it, may even volunteer. But you give it to a sanguine 30 minutes after, the sanguine is distracted. 30 minutes after, ask the sanguine, where's the work I gave to you? He's like, they begin to stutter. But a choleric, give a choleric a task, they will meet it and you'll be baffled. They will meet it and break the target that you have to give them another one. They are the kind of people who naturally meet targets and exceed them. The choleric. I'm just taking us through, the pros and the cons here, so that we begin to realize that, don't forget I said earlier, there's no temperament that is good and there's no temperament that is bad. Every temperament has its good side and also has its weak side. Let me not call it bad side. No, weak side. They get things done. They almost never rest until they have fully accomplished a task. They can naturally work themselves to death. They are the ones that people call the workaholic, the choleric. Why? Because goals and target. They say, today I want to achieve 10 things. They finish one, they tick. Finish the next one, they tick. They finish the third, they tick. Until they finish the rest, they don't find fulfillment. The choleric. Give them tasks, they get it done. When carrying out various tasks to accomplish goals, they are capable of undertaking any behavior necessary to get it done. In other words, they do not care whose ox is God in their quest towards achieving their goals. For him, the end justifies the means. I said that earlier. The choleric refuses to see any pitfalls in their path. They are not easily discouraged. The choleric will forge ahead regardless of the cost. They know how to pay the price. The choleric. The choleric is independent and believes that they have in them whatever it takes to accomplish anything they want. Independent. So even when you have children tomorrow, it's easy for you to begin to tell which one has choleric traits. Independence. They almost never need anybody for anything. They almost never need people for counsel. They almost never need people to tell them what to do or where to go. They always never depend on anyone for assistance or for survival. The choleric. These are beautiful traits, I tell you. I tell you. Independence. Independence. Which is one of the tests of maturity. where you no longer depend on people, whether your parents, whether your uncles, whether your siblings. You can stand on your own. The choleric, they do it naturally, without stress. The choleric is independent and believes that they have in them what it takes to accomplish anything they want. The choleric has no problem making decisions. They are very quick decision makers. So again, if I go back to talking about marriage, in the context of marriage, for instance, where, like I used the illustration earlier, where a woman is married to, a woman is a choleric and married to a man who is maybe phlegmatic. Let me use the phlegmatic again. Or let me use the melancholy, like I am a melancholy. So at times my wife would ask me, okay, what do we do about this? And I'm like, let me think about it. Because the melancholy, we are deep thinkers. We are critical. We do a lot of analysis. So I want to take that thing, sleep with it, think, dissect it, and ensure sleep with it and ensure that I'm making the right decision before I take the step. That's the melancholy. And then the phlegmatic. Their wahala is plenty when it has to do with decision making. In some cases, the reason a phlegmatic may not want to take a decision is because that decision will hurt the other person. And so they begin to want to avoid it, giving you the answer. We'll get to the phlegmatic, then you will see the aspect of the phlegmatic. The phlegmatic are those people that they almost will never hurt a fly. They don't know how to tell people no. Phlegmatic. We'll come to that. So imagine this woman, assuming she's a choleric, and she's married to maybe a melancholy or a phlegmatic. She wants a decision to be made now. And in fact, while she wants the decision to be made now, she has the decision. But because you are her husband, she wants to give you some regard. So she comes to you and she says, what do we do? And then you say like the melancholy, let me think about it. It doesn't all go well with her. Let me think about it, whereas I have the solution now. So, but you see, it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. So, okay, let me tell us this story. I told us that my secondary temperament is choleric. So I found myself in a leadership position, but you see, because my melancholy side is more dominant, I began to lead the people I was leading like a melancholy. There was a problem. Please listen to me very attentively. I want you to understand this twist. A choleric leads based on goals and targets. A melancholy leads with a critical mind and also a perfectionist personality. So, if I give instruction, let's do this, and then I wait 1, 2, 3 minutes, Excuse me, just 1 minute. Okay. I give instruction, let's do this. And then I wait 1, 2, 3 minutes. And nobody looks like they just moved their body at all. I step in. I step in. And I do the work. At other times, I am scared that when I invite them to do the work, they will not get it right. And so, my perfectionist nature made me to begin to do things on my own without working with the team. It was a bad way of leadership. Because I was now leading as a melancholy instead of leading as a choleric. I put my personality in front of the vision. I put my personality in front of the purpose, the end game. I lost sight of it. So I'm trying to make us to understand the place of the choleric, the importance of the choleric. Is a decision maker, like I said, and they are swift in making decisions. The choleric is extremely self-centered. Self-centered. I mean, relate that with what I said earlier, that the choleric is independent, almost not needing support, almost not needing anybody. So if you bring that a little bit inside, you begin to see the choleric as someone who is independent. He doesn't need anybody. He doesn't need any external support. So in the same way, he's self-centered. Always thinking about himself. Me, myself, and I. Call it selfishness in a sense. But you see, that selfishness is driven by vision. By purpose. That's all they see. That's all the choleric sees. So he's sleeping in the night. He's thinking of what he's supposed to be doing tomorrow. Which is a dream, which is a goal, which is a vision. And so he loses track or loses sight of other people's existence. Because he is driven with purpose. He is driven with what is in front of him or her. So a lot of times it makes it look as though they are selfish, because all they are thinking about is accomplishing this vision, and this vision is their vision. It's their vision. If you employ a choleric and put him in your establishment, unless they own up your vision as theirs, even your business or company may be in trouble. Because that choleric might use your vision, use your company as a springboard for what he or she sees, the greater picture. The choleric. When they are wrong, they will not accept it. And theirs is the only way that is correct and what matters. Yet, when the choleric is brought under authority, in other words, when the choleric is brought under authority, in other words, they can gain mastery of themselves, greatness can be accomplished by the choleric in a very befitting manner. The choleric. The choleric. Okay. Having taken us through that introduction, I just want to take us through 4 key areas about the choleric. The first thing about the choleric that I want us to look at are the weaknesses. Of course, while we were talking, while I was reading those introductory points, I mentioned quite some things about weaknesses. I also mentioned strengths of the choleric. But I want to, just take you through and probably expand on some aspects. So major weaknesses. I mentioned earlier that the choleric is almost dead to emotion. So the choleric lacks lack of emotion is one of the weaknesses of the choleric. The choleric is bossy. So whether it's the boss lady, like I talked about, or it's a man who is a choleric, they are bossy. Bossy. They almost would, always push people around. Don't forget, it's not because they enjoy doing it. The end justifies the means. So if the choleric is pushing you, don't just see him as someone or her as someone who pushes people around. See them as someone who wants to accomplish or achieve something. And so if you can understand that, whether, like I said, it's your boss or anybody that you have a relationship with, if you can understand that they are purpose-driven, just help them accomplish. And you are best friends with the choleric. Now, also because of their purpose drive, they are impatient. They are impatient. Very impatient. They are looking at their time. They are looking at the target. They are looking at their time. They are looking at the target. So the choleric is naturally impatient. So if you're in a relationship with someone who is a choleric, just, what's the word now? Stomach their impatience. Bear it. In some cases, you may have to deal with it for the rest of your life. Very impatient. They want results now because they have goals and targets. And this is not the only goal, this is not the only target. They have more pending. They have more pending. They have more pending. So they are very impatient. Then another weakness, they are quick-tempered. And don't forget, I told you, of course, the same reason why they are impatient is the same reason why they are quick-tempered. The anger is towards a delay in something they want to achieve. And at times, they may carry it out on a person. So they are quick-tempered. They hardly relax because they are impatient. Another major weakness of a choleric is that they enjoy controversy and arguments. They enjoy controversy and argument. And the reason they enjoy controversy and argument is not because they just want to argue. Because they are self-opinionated, so they have their opinions and they feel that their opinion is the best. So a lot of times it leads to argument because they feel that, okay, this decision that I've thrown in here is the best. And we should just go with it. So anybody has anything contrary is a problem. So a lot of times if you go online and you want to argue with a choleric, you get time. You get time. They always want to, even if you come back and all you dropped was an emoji, the choleric will want to be the one to drop the last emoji. Of course, if they are trained, they can deal with all of that. Another weakness, the choleric won't give up when they are losing. Even when they are losing, they won't give up. They are fighters. So even when they are losing, they won't give up. Come to think of it, I don't think that should fall in as a weakness. It sounds like a strength to me. Yeah? So this should be an error, how it came into this category. It sounds like a strength to me. Someone who doesn't give up even when they are losing. Now, he didn't say even when they are wrong. If he said even when they are wrong, I would say, okay, that's a major weakness. Because, I mean, you are supposed to admit your fault, retrace your steps, and go in the right direction. But this one didn't talk about wrong. It talked about losing. Yeah. So for me, I don't think that's a weakness. That should be a strength. Another weakness here is a choleric is not flexible. They are very rigid. They have a straight mindset. It's this way and this way alone. A choleric is not diplomatic. They are not diplomatic. Because they have the decision. This is it. And this will take us here. So they are not diplomatic. They are not trying to negotiate with others. Their mind is made. This is it. So they are not flexible. Very rigid. Very rigid. It's a weakness. So when you get into a relationship with a choleric, these are some of the weaknesses and the strengths that you will expect. And if you understand it, you won't be offended. You just know that, oh, this is why this guy or this babe is behaving this way. So, okay, how do I navigate in such a way that we have an understanding between us? How do I live with this person in such a way that we are not fighting every other day? It takes knowledge. And if you're choleric too, you should begin to know that, oh, okay. Maybe you get into a meeting and you're trying to hammer that it has to be your own decision or choice or your own opinion. Then it dawns on you, oh, okay. Okay. David King, calm down. Calm down. This is why you are shouting. This is why you are talking like this. This is why you are trying to insist that everybody should follow your way. It's because you are choleric. Calm down. Okay, let's allow another person give an opinion. Let's allow another person give an opinion. In fact, you be the one to suggest. It will do. There's something it will do to you, where you can begin to empower yourself and overcome your weaknesses. It will strengthen you. It will make you a better. Don't forget I said earlier, your strengths are why people love you or will be drawn towards you. Your weaknesses are why people will want to run away from you or get away from you as much as possible. So if for instance, you're this kind of person who is very rigid, only going in one direction, never being flexible, never being diplomatic, people won't want to deal with you. If they put you in a project with certain people, they'll say, that guy, he always thinks he knows too much. People will draw conclusions about you, and they will run away from you. But if you realize that, oh, this is who I am, once in a while, even when you know the right step to take, calm down. Give others the opportunity to fail. That's why I missed it when I was leading. Because I was leading like a melancholy, leading like a perfectionist who never tolerates failure. I never gave people the opportunity to fail. And because of that, I wasn't giving them the opportunity to learn. Because how do we learn? A lot of times we learn from failure. Failure teaches us how not to do it again the next time. But I was afraid. I didn't want a next time. I wanted to get it right. So I wasn't giving people the opportunity to fail, which means I wasn't giving people the opportunity to learn. So once in a while, relax. I know the step to take, but let's give them an opportunity to fail. Let's give them an opportunity to learn. And I said earlier, of course, I had mentioned that as a weakness, lacking emotions, being unsympathetic. Okay, talking about work. On work, we're talking about weakness. Now, on work, when it has to do with work, as in a work environment, in an official environment, we want to look at the strengths and the weaknesses of a choleric in a working environment. So we start with the strengths. Number one, the first strength of the choleric in a working environment, in other words, this is a strength, meaning it's advantageous to both the person and the organization that he or she works in. So the first strength here is the choleric is goal-oriented. And like I said, who best to give the opportunity to handle a task like the one who is goal-oriented, who never rests, never sleeps until they achieve the purpose or the goal that you've put in their hands? The choleric. Goal-oriented is a strength. And you see, a lot of times when you go to some companies, there are certain things they look at. They look for certain qualities, and they set certain tests to identify if this person has this particular trait or characteristics. And if it's a company where one of the traits they are looking for is someone who is goal-oriented, it means at the end of the day, the choleric will get the job. Because that's what they want. That's what they need. Somebody say, does that mean that other people will not have the opportunity? No. To get jobs? No. There are jobs that are fit for some people. So for instance, you want a marketing job, you give it to a sanguine. You give it to a sanguine. They know how to start discussions from anything. They know how to be excited. They know how to get rejuvenated. The sanguine. You're looking for a receptionist, a front office desk, give it to a sanguine. They'll be smiling with everybody that passes. There are jobs for different kind of people. Don't put a melancholy in, as a receptionist. Come on. They will be so deep in their thought, they won't even notice somebody entered the office. We're talking about relationships and temperament. If you don't know much about relationships, you won't know how to relate to people. You're looking for leaders? Go for cholerics. They are goal-oriented. Goal-oriented. You're looking for faithful people? You want to employ someone in your organization that in the next 10, 15, 20 years, you want to still see them working for you faithfully? Go for a phlegmatic. Go for a phlegmatic. Goal-oriented. Number two, the choleric sees the whole picture. You're not trying to just give them a little tip of the iceberg, and you'll be amazed what they'll bring back to you. They will take it, they will expand on it. They see the whole picture. Like I said, the choleric sees the end from the beginning. So just a little tip that you've given the choleric, he will expand it. He's a good organizer. He or she organizes well. You have a project, you have a program, give it to the choleric. And go to sleep. They don't need follow-up. They don't need follow-up. Give it to the choleric and go to sleep. The choleric seeks practical solutions. The choleric moves quickly to action. They don't procrastinate. They don't delay. All they see is what? Goals and targets. The choleric insists on production. The choleric stimulates activity. Now, watch this. This is a very interesting strength for the choleric. The choleric thrives on opposition. The choleric thrives on opposition. So where a lot of other people are trying to avoid opposition, the choleric is looking... let me put it this way. The choleric loves competition. They love competition. Why? Because it brings out the best in them. It makes them to be creative. They thrive on opposition. Okay, so still talking about the work environment now, let's look at the weaknesses of the choleric. The choleric has little tolerance for mistakes. Little tolerance for mistakes. You make any mistake, the choleric... Remember I said earlier that they are prone to anger. And they are impatient. So when they set that goal, set that target, they don't want room for mistakes. Little tolerance for mistakes. Why? Because they are dealing with what? Goals and targets. They want to achieve and move on to the next thing. The choleric, because of his level of impatience, there's a weakness here, doesn't analyze details. So where the melancholy is very good with details, the choleric, they just want results. So, okay, this one, let's move to the next. Let's move to the next. So, they lose a lot of details along the way, which could end up making their work sloppy. So, yes, they love speed, and speed is good. But because they lack the finesse of the melancholy, and they are always goal-oriented, a lot of times because of their goal-oriented nature and their level of impatience, they miss a lot of details and they make a lot of their results shabby. Weakness. And because he doesn't analyze details, also the choleric is bored by details. It's like you're wasting his time or her time. The best thing that the choleric works with is, check mark or check boxes. We tick, next. Trying to keep them in one place to go around here and expose all the details as important as they are. The choleric gets bored. He wants to move on to the next subject. Another weakness of the choleric, because again, they lack the details and the finesse that they should, the choleric may end up making rash decisions. Now, it doesn't take the choleric anything to make decisions. They can make decisions like this. But because they don't take their time to analyze, to critically look at things, they may make very rash decisions that may cost them a lot of things. That may cost them a lot. Also, because of the impatience, of course, and they always want to achieve, the choleric may be rude and tactless. Rude and tactless. So, don't forget I said earlier that the choleric can climb up on people because they just want to achieve. So, they lose their tact. They can become rude. A choleric can find himself insulting someone that is 10 times or 20 times his senior or her senior. At that time, they're only looking at purpose, the goal, the target. They're not looking at how old are you. They're not looking at several things. So these are weaknesses of the choleric. Another weakness of the choleric is that the choleric manipulates people, like I said earlier, because the choleric is more particular about the target. He sees the target he sees people as a means to an end, a lot of times. So people see cholerics as manipulators. They say, this guy, they use me. Or this babe, they use me. Because all the guy or the babe is seeing is the end. They are not seeing you. In most cases, they are seeing the end. They are only using you to accomplish the end. It's a weakness. And I'm saying if you are choleric today, begin to be conscious so that it doesn't now look like, oh, I'm using people. Now, if you are using people, which there's nothing wrong about it, because, I mean, you need people to achieve goals, to achieve targets. But let it be that this person that you are using to achieve goals and targets, there has to be benefits. In biology, such relationship is called symbiosis, where it benefits both parties, as opposed to the other one that is called parasitism, where one party just leeches on the other for selfish and personal aim. So it could be a weakness in the choleric, where people that they work with are manipulated in a bid to achieve the result that they want. And another weakness for the choleric is that work may become his God. So tomorrow you get married to a choleric, they will close from work and bring work home. They are always working. They get home, they are still working. They are supposed to be with family to enjoy, they are still working. They've been in the office from morning till night, working. They've closed. They came home. They brought work home. It's a weakness. Like I told us earlier, I have a secondary part of me that is choleric. So what do I do at times when it looks as though that part is trying to show up all the time and it's always work? I do something which I call shutting down. I shut down. The world will not end. I shut down. That's what I call it, shutting down. Okay, the last aspect of what we're looking at tonight, let me just run through this. On friends and relationships, of course, I said the other one had to do with work. So on friends and relationships, strengths. The choleric will work for group activity. The choleric will lead and organize. The choleric excels in emergencies. If there's an emergency, and you seek the help of a choleric, they are always ready to step into emergencies because, there's something I have to do now. For weaknesses, when it has to do with friends and relationships, the choleric tends to use people. I mentioned that earlier. Is dominating. A lot of people don't like being, being controlled, or when somebody is always trying to dominate them. A lot of people don't like it. They don't do well with it. But it's one of the traits of the choleric. It's a weakness. The choleric tends to decide for others. So there's a decision to be made, and he doesn't allow other people to share their own. He comes in or she comes in, they want to make the decision, It's a weakness. The choleric tends to know it all. It's a weakness. The choleric thinks that they can do everything better than every other person. It's a weakness. The choleric is too independent. It's a weakness. Is it good to be independent? Yes, but when you are too independent, it becomes a weakness. Of course, like they say, too much of everything is a disease. The choleric could be possessive of friends and mates. Yeah, friends, possessive. So the choleric, because they are domineering, they always want to be in control. So when they get into a relationship with someone, especially if it's a platonic relationship with a male and female, or with a husband and wife, or that kind of stuff. Somebody's phone rings now. Who is that? Or who was that? It's my phone. It's not supposed to be your business. If we have a good relationship, I could even tell you, oh, that was so and so. I mean, it's courtesy. At times I'm with my wife and maybe my phone rings and I pick the call, and at times I could put it on speaker so she's listening or hearing the conversation. Not because she's looking for anything, but it's part of relationship. I'm saying I'm free in your presence. Or at times, if it's a call that I need to be private, after I'm done talking, I'm like, oh, that was this person. We're talking about this, and all of that. But if it's the other way around, phone rings, somebody picks call, and after the person has talked, who was that? It's not your phone. It's not your business. But you see, the choleric wants to know it all. Who was that? Because they want to be in control. It's part of their nature to be domineering. So they could also be possessive. They're having all of you to themselves. It could be bad enough that before you can even travel to go see your family members, it's almost not very easy for the choleric to let you go. And even when they do, they'll be putting tabs on you all the time. Where are you? What are you doing now? They are controlling you from from wherever they are, the choleric. The choleric it's almost difficult for the choleric to say, I'm sorry. That again is because a choleric feels that they are always right. And like we said earlier, that even when they are wrong, they find it a little bit difficult to adjust. So, in a nutshell, all of these things are pointing to the kind of person who the choleric is. And I've just tried to share all of these things with you so that you would know that, oh, this is why I do what I do. I'm a choleric. Okay, this is it. Or maybe you are in relationship with someone who is a choleric. You can begin to understand why they are the way they are. So instead of you getting offended, I don't behave this way. Why do you behave this way? The two of you are different. Don't go comparing yourself with the other person, because the two of you are different. And if you think that your nature is better than their own, come on, you also have weaknesses too. And so let's live in a world where we get to understand each other and know how we can relate with each other. So if this person has a weakness, how do I complement their weakness with my strength? Relationship. Relationship. The other person doesn't have this. I have it. So I supply it. There's not room for quarrel. Now remember, in our last session I said, you can't change anybody. That people only change when they are convinced that they need to change. So what I'm talking about now is I'm saying that when people have realized that, okay, this is who I am. This weakness, I don't like it. I need to do something about it. Then they can begin to work on themselves. I call it the process of change. The process of change. It takes a step-by-step process. built into a routine for people to begin to change. And that change, I will always tell people, does not happen overnight. So, there you have it. The choleric. We are still talking about relationship and temperaments. And by the time we are done with the 4 different basic temperaments, we will begin to tie up all of this together, and we will see how we can make our relationships with one another or our relations with other people to be the best that it can be. Where, like I said, we enjoy symbiosis rather than parasitism, where we are giving and we are taking. It can happen. But it happens, like I said, the foundation of every relationship begins with your understanding of temperaments and being able to work together with temperaments. So there you have it. Thank you so very much for staying with me. I remain David King Etienne, your relationship coach on the Z platform. And until I see you again, God bless you and bye-bye.